origin of international rescue starts in outer space, where 6 astronauts are due to relieve the crew of Freedom, a permanently manned space station. One of them is Colonel Jeff Tracy on a special mission. For the past 3 years, Jeff has been working on experiments surrounding the design and development of launch vehicles that can take mankind out to the stars. With the help of the World Space Administration, Jeff is preparing to set up Tracy Construction and Aerospace Corporations, having been on 18 space missions. Even with such a record, Jeff still yearns to land on the moon. Whilst undertaking successful experiments aboard Freedom, studying solar winds in space, he receives a call from Mission Control. His dream is about to come true. To celebrate the 21st century, a flight to the moon is being organized, and he is to be the mission controller. Completing his duties on Freedom, Jeff heads earthbound to start training for his moon flight and to set up his construction and aeronautics businesses. The mission, with 3 other astronauts, will include a survey of the site chosen for the first lunar outpost. Jeff says goodbye to his family and promises to build his son Scott a new rocket as he heads out for 6 weeks of training. The 6 weeks pass by, and Jeff checks out his rocket design theory and builds Scott his 3rd model rocket. Once complete, his time off is cut short, as the setting up of Tracy Construction and Aeronautics call for his time. Moreover, his wife Lucille Tracy tells him that Scott is to have a younger brother or sister. Summer is fast approaching when Jeff is introduced to his fellow moon mission crew. First up, the familiar scientist Allison Richards, who had worked with Jeff aboard Freedom. Pilot Major Larry Hauptmann and engineer Hank Wright, a civilian, completed the crew. Together, they must embark on a training mission aboard a reconnaissance aircraft, the Aurora. It will provide them with a vital environment for high altitude and hypersonic tests. As the aircraft rolled out of the hangar, Jeff couldn't help but marvel at such machinery. Jeff enjoyed the thrill and exhilaration of the flight. This was different to the space missions he had undertaken before. After experiencing a heart-pounding dive, it was once again time to head home for rest. Back home, Lucille announced that Scott was about to have a baby brother. They pondered baby names, and it took Jeff little time to suggest Virgil, named after the astronaut Virgil Grissom, just as Scott had been named after Scott Carpenter. 2 weeks later, Jeff Tracy, Major Hauptmann, Hank Wright, and Allison Richards were blasting off for the moon on another training exercise. Before they could survey the moon, however, they had another objective to fulfill. Jeff had to replace some of the solar batteries on satellite number 5. They moved on to orbit the moon, where Allison Richards and Hank Wright concentrated on their survey work. It was all-important training for the mission to come. The next part of the space readiness activity is a flight into orbit aboard the ASP, the Aerospace Plane. With Jeff and the crew on board, the ASP flies at fantastic speed, cutting through the upper atmosphere at Mach 10. As they near stratoscape, a malfunction occurs, and they begin to lose height. The ASP races back through the clouds. They're going to crash. With the ship out of control, Hauptmann leans across to Jeff's seat and presses the eject button. Jeff's flight seat safely lands in the ocean, and the ASP glides back towards the sky as if nothing had happened, dropping a survival pod. As Jeff struggles to understand why he was deliberately abandoned, he inflates a survival raft and heads for a nearby deserted island. Once on the island, Jeff makes a preliminary exploration and sets up camp. He still can't figure it all out. He continues to make good use of the survival life raft and provisions, and soon discovers a built-in radio transmitter. He is not aware that nearby he is being watched by Mission Control. He makes further explorations of his new home, producing sketches of the island, while sending a regular Mayday call over the radio. 10 weeks pass, and finally a submarine surfaces to pick Jeff up. He did not realize how important this island would one day become to international rescue. Back to the safety on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, the project controller debriefs Jeff on all that has happened. Everything had been planned. They needed to see how he would react on his own in a hostile environment. He had passed the test and had time to stop off home again, where his new son Virgil had arrived. The first leg of the journey to the moon takes the ASP to the orbiting space station Freedom. The lunar lander awaits Jeff Tracy and his crew. Finally, the 21st century is celebrated with the first moon landing by humans in over 30 years. Major Allison Richards has made history as the first woman to set foot on the lunar surface as they survey a site for a future base. It's a big moment for Jeff, and once over, he returns to Earth with a sense of accomplishment, ready to direct his mind towards the building of his businesses and scientific progress.